Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, a couple lines from the top. So we had a problem understanding the case of oxen with hektish or non-hektish, and we knocked out the previous answer. So we said Leolam de Nagach Torah Didan the Torah de hektish. Rabbi Kiva is referring to a case where a person's ox gored the ox belonging to hektish. Before we ask the question, Torah mentioned your friend's ox and not Hektish's ox, so you should be patur, seemingly. The Gemara says no. Rabbi Akiva Savar like Rabbi Yishmael ben Menashe. He holds like Rabbi Yishmael ben Menashe that holds that you are chayav. Tanya. Rabbi Yishmael ben Menashe, Shosha Hektish and Nagal Shosha Hektish, ox of Hektish, but gored an ox of a regular guy, patur. Betem Midash is patur. Shosha Hektish, Nagal Shosha Hektish, Ben Tam Ben Muad Mishnah Hektish. A person's ox who's gored Hektish's ox, chayav nezek shalem, whether or not you are tam or muad. So, because it's Hektish, he's mahmir. So, he was like him. The Gemara says, how do we know that Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva's machloket is talking about the superior, the better land of the guy who got damaged, the damagee, and the bad land of the guy who damaged? Maybe everybody holds that you assess from the better property of the damagee's property. The machloket over there has nothing to do with the quality, and it just has to do with the machloket between what they hold in regarding to hektish oxen. Rabbi Akiva holds like Rabbi Shimon ben Nasi, who holds that you're chayav. Bishmael Savai Klabran, Rabbi Shimon holds like Hamim, that you're patur. The Gemara says, Imken, my lo baha katuv. Right? Earlier we mentioned that Rabbi Akiva said that pasuk didn't come to teach you, rather XYZ that you're patur with a hektish. So therefore, if that's nothing to do that, if that's the case, then meaning because of that, we see that's not the basis of the machloket. But additionally, my kavachomer hektish, what kavachomer would be with hektish? If Rabbi Akiva would hold Rabbi Shmuel that you're patur, then there's no kavachomer. And additionally, Hamar Rav Ashi said, Tanya Be'edia, explicit Braita, Rabbi Akiva argues against Rabbi Shmuel regarding quality of land. Meta Sadil, Metav Karamo Yishalem. He shall pay from the best of his land. Meta Sadil Shanizak, Metav Karamo Shanizak. He uses his to teach you, both of them are referring to the Nizak, the Maji. To Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Meta Sadil Shemazik, Meta Karamo Shemazik, the his is referring to the damager, and if it's paid with their own land. Right? So therefore, because of that, all of these questions, we see the machloket between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva is only referring to quality, superior, inferior land, and has nothing to do regarding the halacha of a hektish animal getting attacked. Okay. Rabbi asked the question to Rava. Pasuk says, "Ktiv metav sedeu metav kamo yishalem." You shall pay from your best field or your best vineyard, which sounds like metav in. You have to pay from your best land. But you can't use anything else. Right? You have to use only best real estate. That's it. Right? It says, Yashiv. That says you shall return the money. Which means you can include anything that is equal into monetary value. Even something as brand. So it sounds like you don't even have to use top-notch stuff. When we say you could use other stuff, even cheap stuff, as long as it monetary value equals, right? Obviously you have to put more of the cheaper stuff, is when the guy pays up without any summons. However, if he gets summoned to Betin, he gets subpoenaed, and he's chayav, then as like a penalty ish, he has to pay from his best stuff. Marula Breda Vilai, De Kanami also we also make a diuk that's indicating this is the halacha. That Yishalem he shall pay. Bal Korcho, which sounds like it's against his will. He says, Miktiv Yishulam. Doesn't say he shall be, it shall be paid. That sounds like against the will. Yishalem Ktiv Midato Mashma. Yishalem can even sound like he will pay even voluntarily, without being subpoenaed. The Gemara says no. We can only explain it as Rabbah said. The time of the Brisa says, the guy who owned houses, fields, and vineyards, all worth 200 zuz, which makes him ineligible to take Maaser Ani. Right? he must sell a field in order to take Maaser Ani. So if if he can't find someone to sell it to, we feed him Maaser Ani until half of his field. Right? So Maaser Ani is you have to you're able to give every couple of years you have to give your fruits to Aniyim or Maaser to Aniyim. And so if the guy owns the property, that's his net worth of his real estate is up to 200 zuz, he can't eat it. But if you can't sell it, if he can't sell his item and therefore he can't get any money to he can't get any funds to buy anything, so he's stuck in a pickle basically. Able to feed him maaser until 100 zuz. But how did Bomar and Mara ask the question? What's the case? If his land, everybody's land had declined in price, and his property also dropped in value, I feel we should be able to provide him even more than half their current worth. Because everybody else is declined. Therefore, this guy's a poor person. And you could take as much as you could give him. Rather, you're saying everybody else's land got more pricey. But then I did the island in Africa since he was looking for money, since he had to sell, his value declined. Meaning people know he's desperate. He's looking for a buyer. He's putting up signs. He's putting in newspapers, and he needs to sell. Therefore, people are saying, okay, they lowball him. In that case, you shouldn't give him any maaser ani because his property is worth more than the threshold of 200 zuz. Whereas Amar more said on it. Well, tzricha is only applicable in the days of Nisan, because the land becomes more expensive then. During the months of Tishrei, the land drops in price. Springtime and fall time. Because people usually wait till Nisan to sell when it's at the peak. The high, this guy, since he needs money, he has to sell right now at the current price, which is low. Therefore, technically, his current market price is low. So it's under the threshold. Therefore, it's your value of your land could drop by half, right? Because they used to have land just to make fruits, and they have to wait a whole year for the fruits to come in. So this is an investment into the land. They have to wait a whole year to see any dividend, and therefore the price of the thing could drop up to half its value during the full months. But it wouldn't usually drop more than half. Whereas regarding nizakin, the damaged party is able to collect from superior land. And if he tells the damager, instead of giving me 1 acre of best land, give me 2 acres of medium average land. The guy could tell him back, if you're taking the best land, which is your right, take it right now during Tishrei time when the price has dropped. If not, you can take it when the price goes up in Nisan, which means you'll get like a half an acre because it's worth more. Right? So it means that he can, if he wants to pick land, he has to pick according to the damager's request. That's the case that he has to accept a higher valuation if he wants to take any of the land. You made his power of a damagee weaker in regarding to collecting average and weak and bad lands. But it's not fair. Torah told him that he could collect from the best land. Right? Torah says you can collect from the best land, which means we're trying to hook him up. But now if we're telling you you can collect from the best land, and you can't, if you try to collect any of their average or below average, it's not going to work out. It's not fair. That's what I wanted him to have the upper hand. But at the market, you didn't tell me that only Torah only said superior, but you can't take average or below average. If it's a scenario we could compare it to, you could compare it to a guy who's collecting a debt during Tishrei. A lender collects average land. The Amalek told the guy, give me a bigger piece of below average. Amalek, the guy can tell him back, if you're taking average land, take it. Shekol Kadash, take it out. The lower price. But if you want to take the bad land, Shekil Kiyukra, you can take it at a higher price. Whereas Makif Larabaha Breda Imken, Naata Delet Bifne Lavian. The Marle, Ilu Havuli Zuze, Shakle Kida Hashta, Hashta de Zuze Gabach, Eshkok Yukra de Kame. And it's a famous line called Na'alin Delet Bifne Lavian. The Torah encourages people to lend money. And ergo, the Torah also tries to make it that we make halachot that encourages people. If we make things complicated for the lender, or we create situations where it'll discourage him, then you're quote unquote locking the door before the lender, which is another fancy way of saying you're discouraging people to lend money. So if you don't let this guy take below average land at the regular price, but rather at a higher price, people are not going to want to lend money because he'll say, if I had the money that I never lent you in the first place, I could buy it right now. All right, if I had 100K, instead of having this conversation, I could buy it right now at a cheaper price and be done with it. I did you a favor of lending you money, and now if I want to pay for the bad land, I have to pay at a higher price. That doesn't make sense. It's not fair. Therefore, the Gemara says, you could compare it to a situation, compare it to ketubah. Because the ketubah collects from below average land. But if she told her husband or ex-husband, give me average land and smaller piece. You could tell her, if you take the bad land, you could take right now at the lower price, which gives you more. But if not, you could take the average land, but less because I'm going to charge you the Nissan price. So this is good. It's a good comparison. Right? How do we answer the machloket, the stira at least, in regarding to collecting money from Abaye? Whenever the damager gives money to the damagee, he has to give him from the best. Right? So even though the guy can pay with cheap items, he has to give him the best of the cheap items. Right? So he's paying with cheap brand to give him the best cheap brand. You can't give him the garbage brand. He says, no, 1 second. The Torah says the best field, not the best type of item. Where it says, Parshua, they explained it as follows. Any, as long as considered superior, above average, and if it can't be sold now, you can sell it elsewhere easily. This is true of everything except for real estate, because you can't sell real estate outside the city or in a different city. Because you have to give the best land so that you're able to buy it, right? We're giving this guy what's the word I'm looking for? You're giving this guy money to pay back for what happened to him and reparation. Right? You're giving this guy money to get back for what was damaged to him. Now, if you give him garbage or garbage land, it's hard to sell it. It's not fair. He had his item, he was happy with his item. Now he's getting something that he can't sell. Bad real estate he can't sell. It's not fair. That's why the Torah said you have to give him good land. So if you ever want to sell it, it should be easy to sell it. Next, he asked Rabbi Abba, Kishehen Shamin, when they assess the land in regarding to what's considered expensive, Bishelo Hen Shamin, do they value it against the guy's own properties? Or Bishel Olam Hen Shamin? Or do they value against general, right? So this guy had 10 properties. To say, okay, this is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Or do we value it versus general, the world's properties? Ali Badr Bishmael, there's no question. Because we can say that it fits with the damaged party's lands. Therefore, it doesn't make a difference what it is because he says, I don't care. It goes by the guy who got damaged. The question implies that Liba Rabbi Akiva the Marbid Mazik Shimyan is only according to Rabbi Akiva holds that we go according to the damager. Mahi was halacha. Metas de Omer Achmanan the Ma'ut the Nizak. Do we say that he has to pay his best field in order to exclude the damagee's best field? Or is it saying you're excluding the world's, right? The world at large, right? So how do we explain it? The question that he asked seemingly is a good question according to the Akiva. Says, oh, his field, and you think that doesn't mean in the world at large? Rather, no, he said his field, and therefore means you go according to what he owns and you start ranking them 1 to 10. I have a question. And no edit. Let's say you owed a woman a ketubah and you only had good land, best land. Kulam gobin mina edit. Anybody could collect from the best land. Beronit, if you only had average land, Kulam Gobin Beronit, you all collect average land. Ziborit, you only had bad land, Kulam Gobin Ziborit, you only collected the bad land. Hayilo Idit Benit Ziborit, if you had all 3 types, Nizakin Beidit, the damages are paid with superior land, Ubachov Benit, and the debtors paid with average land, Kodesha Beziborit, and Ketubah is paid with bad land. Idit Ubenonit, if he only had superior and average land, Nizakin Beidit, damages are paid with superior. And lending and Kizbah are paid with average. Right? She got bumped up because there is no bad land. So she gets the average. If she had average or below average, damages and lender are average. And the Ketubah drops down to the inferior, right? Nizakin goes to the top, and Benonit's that ends the top that he has. And Baal Chov over here is we can't drop it to bad land because then it's not fair. The guy won't land anymore. Therefore, we give him the average, even though that's the best he has. Edit, if he had superior and inferior land, Nizakin be edit, they pay with the superior land. And the lender and the ketubah get the bad land. So now, what's the question? In the middle case, right, with if you have 2 types of land, but let's say if you had average and bad, Nizakin Baal Chov Benit, damage land, damage property, damage payments, and lending payments have to be with average. Uktubati Shabizim, the Ketubah gets paid with bad land. If you tell me that by damaging, you have to go according to the payer's fields. His land should be technically be considered superior. Right? There is no benonit or thing. If he has 2 lands, one's average, one's below average, then mimanavsha, one's the top, one's bottom. Right? You don't average if he only has 2 properties. And the damage should go from top and the Baal Chov should get from bottom. So what did the Gemara say? He had a top, he had an A+ land, but he sold it. Right? And therefore, the question is, and also he says that he sold it already. The question is, can he collect it from that land? Can he has like a lien on the property? Also prove it elsewhere. Because the different part said Benonit Zibrit, Nizakin Benonit. Right? If he owned average and bad land, Nizakin Benonit, he can pay with the average land. Ba'achov Tadishab Zibrit, and a Ba'achov and a Itubah paid with bad land, Kashinadari. Right? It seems like it's a stira, because the first part that says you can collect from average lender, and the second one says you can collect from the bad land. There must be another factor. The first case talking about where he had the superior land and he sold it. Therefore, the question is, can you pull it? The second case is where he didn't have it. Good. So we'll continue here. Next daf.